Welcome to the All Sports Betting Podcast Cricket World Cup previews. I'm Steve Wyss. I'm joined as ever by Kevin Harper, and we've got a really big game to preview on Wednesday, England against New Zealand. Pretty much do or die time for England. They've got to win this game to get themselves in the top four guaranteed. Otherwise, they're relying on Bangladesh to do them a favour. To say it's come to this stage, I mean, a lot of people expected England to cruise this group stage, certainly. But now it's pretty much a must-win situation, Kev, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, what's been before has been done and dusted, hasn't it? We've covered it quite a few times. Plenty of other people have. But to England's credit, they were in this position on Sunday, weren't they? And they produced probably their best performance of the World Cup so far against an Indian side. Okay, for all the trials and tribulations about that run chase, they were never really in the game from start to finish, India. And given that they followed that up with a good win over Bangladesh on Tuesday, England deserve a bit of credit for how well they played in that game, and a repeat of that is just exactly what they're looking for here. That would be more than enough.
And what about from New Zealand's point of view? I mean, are they guaranteed a place in the top four, or, the run rate's pretty strong, isn't it?
Well, they need the line pretty soon, don't they? Because they're like your 10,000 metre runner that sets off thinking it's a 5,000 metre race, and when he gets into the last few laps of it, he's gagging for air and the legs are disappearing, and he's seeing the chasing pack come swooping past him. They started off like a house on fire, didn't they, New Zealand? Then that rain came, kind of derailed them a little bit because they haven't looked the same side since then. They should have lost all 4 matches since then. They've only lost 2 of them. I still don't know how they scraped over the line against South Africa and West Indies prior to that. But they could easily be coming in here on a 4-game losing streak. And even if they do make the semi-final, they sure as hell don't want to be going there on off the back of 3 defeats, do they? My only thing about New Zealand in this game is, at some point, will they bat for their run rate? And if they do, and to be fair, that probably wouldn't be the worst move necessarily. Pakistan need a ridiculous-sized victory as it is, so don't make it any easier for them. You could kind of see that happening, couldn't you? If England put a decent score up and, New Zealand lose 2 or 3 early, just bat the runs, just get as close as possible.
How is run rate exactly worked out, Kev, for those who don't really understand it?
Total runs scored divided by total overs faced minus total runs conceded divided by total overs bowled. If that makes any sense. So get the two figures and then plus or minus it.
There you go. So, all right. So this match is from Chesterley Street. How do you see it going? Do you think England are going to get the job done?
I do, yeah, for a couple of reasons. First of all, as we've said for the last probably 2 weeks, this New Zealand batting lineup's not really fearing any. Nobody's getting feared by it now, are they? I mean, Australia just took it to the cleaners. Kane Williamson's the only one really who's shown anything throughout the tournament. They've had flashes from Ross Taylor, 1 or 2 innings from Jimmy Neesham. They've had nothing from the opening batsman. Tom Latham may as well not be here. Colin de Grandhomme, well, I mean, he's hit or miss. I mean, what the hell he was doing on Saturday against Australia? His first ball he faced from Steve Smith just clubbed it straight down Usman Khawaja's throat. Never even had to move. Could have stood there, had a cup of tea on its way. It was ridiculous. They're not going very well with the bat at all. And I think the one thing that we saw in that game between West Indies and Sri Lanka here, actually, for a dead rubber, a cracking game on Monday, was that you're going to have to score runs on this pitch. There's absolutely no demons in it, nothing wrong with it. Forget the fact that Sri Lanka only scored 200 in the first game here. That was just down to them being crap. Nothing wrong with the wicket. And I just don't see New Zealand putting up the required amount of runs.
Yeah, and you bet for the game is England to win and to hit the most sixes.
Yeah, I mean, we've been torched on this back earlier on in the tournament, haven't we? But, I mean, I kind of figure if England don't win, well, they don't win anyway, do they? But if they do win and don't hit the most sixes, then something's going to be a pear-shaped, because New Zealand have only hit 20 sixes in the entire tournament so far. They've played 7 completed matches, so that's not even an average of 3 a game. And they've played on some small grounds. They played Afghanistan down at Taunton. They've played a game at Cardiff, and they played the West Indies at Old Trafford. So it's not like they've played on humongous grounds. I mean, this is the biggest ground they've played on. They didn't play at Southampton. They haven't played at Headingley. They haven't played on the tricky grounds. Yeah, they're still not averaging 3 sixes in an innings, and this is a massive ground. England, even on this size ground, will hit sixes. That's just the way they do their thing. Jason Roy's back, so England's batting has its mojo back at the top of the order. Um, I expect England to win the game, but I certainly expect them to hit the most sixes. So you may as well put the two together and get 5 to 6 for your money, as opposed to taking them at a very short price. Because, like I say, if they don't win, this bet don't win anyway.
Yeah, going on from your thoughts there about the pitch, you're going to need to score quite a lot of runs here, and I agree with you. And really, if we look at the 4 innings played at this ground in this tournament, there's one real anomaly, and that was that Sri Lanka first innings against South Africa. The other 3 innings, it's been very easy for the batsman, and he's played very nicely, to be honest. No demons whatsoever. And pick I like here is over 44.5 boundaries. Over 44.5 fours. Bet 365. You're not going to get rich back in this because it's a 1.61, but you can't eat value, can you? So might as well take it. It's a significantly lower line, 48.5. I've seen in some places. So I'll take the lower line. It's a lower price, but it's not a ground for sixes, so there's no real point taking the boundaries. Yeah, England might hit a few, but it's not going to go. No one's going to go batshit mental with sixes. I don't think. Most of the runs will be scored along the ground on the deck, and there's a lot of good stroke players. Even that New Zealand team, Williamson, Taylor get in. They're quite capable of hitting the boundary ropes numerous times. So this looks a little bit low on what has been a very good batting pitch for sure. Big ground, but it's nice and dry at the moment. The ball's running on pretty fast. And, they should be, even if New Zealand do bat first here, I think there'll be more than enough runs on offer for 45 fours on the day.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. The only concern would be if New Zealand bat first and don't bat very well, but like you say, as long as they put up 200, 220, something like that, it's not like England aren't going to bat normally. So you should be fine there.
On to some other bets. You're going Johnny Bairstow over 36.5 runs. First of all, what did you make of his comments in the media last week? They were, not different, but because he's done it before, hasn't he? But certainly fired himself up and got himself a century on the back of it, Kev.
Yeah, I sense that's what it was all designed about, wasn't it? Because if he does believe that, he needs to give his head a wobble. I don't know any side that's had the support that this current England side's got, and that's because of the brand of cricket that it plays. But I'm sorry, but if you go into a tournament number 1 in the world and favourites to win the tournament and you don't make the semi-finals, if you think you're not going to get criticised for that, well, you need to bring your heads out of the clouds and start smelling some coffee, because it's just not going to happen. It's they're favourites for a reason, and they have to justify that. And to be fair to them, they did do that on Sunday. Him in particular, Bairstow. Whether he needs to say these things to get a chip on his shoulder, I don't know. But if he does, well, keep saying it, because it certainly worked, didn't it?
What is it about Michael Vaughan that ruffles the feathers of England players these days?
It's not just the England players, is it? He ruffles the feathers of anyone, doesn't he? Bloke's a grade A idiot, to be fair. There's not really an awful lot more that you can say. Obviously, he favours the players that are part of his management company, as you would, which is why he'll never say anything bad about Butler or Stokes or any of those people. But to be fair to Vaughan, I don't think he said anything out of line. England lost to Sri Lanka. You can't do that in a World Cup, especially if you want to go on and win the World Cup. It's I didn't think he said anything out of the ordinary, and Bairstow's just taking it on his shoulders to pick fault with it, hasn't he? But Joss Butler followed him up in a press conference, didn't he, and batted it all down and said, no, there's no problem. So obviously Bairstow's got to be in his bonnet about something. Maybe it's because he's not managed by Vaughan.
Yeah, I saw the Joss Butler conference. He has one of the smoothest voices in cricket, doesn't he, Joss Butler? It's incredible.
He's just natural at everything he does, isn't he? He's just
so
laid
silky.
Back. Yeah, he's quality.
Yeah, so Johnny Bairstow over 36.5 runs. I think he had a few low scores in this tournament, and he caught me out at Headingley with one of them. But do you think he can kick on from that century?
Yeah, I mean, his only low score alongside Jason Roy was against South Africa, wasn't it? When he got done first ball by a spinner, he's not gonna have that problem here, is he? Because New Zealand will open with Bolt, and I dare say they'll bring Henry back into the side, and they'll open with him. So not going to have to worry about facing a spinner first up, or I'd be very surprised if he does anyway. Got a good record against New Zealand, averages 77 against them. Finished off the ODI series last winter in New Zealand with back-to-back centuries, didn't he? 138 and 104, and they were blistering centuries at that. He's scored 83 not out against them as well. He's also got a 37. He's only played them 6 times, so he's passed this on 4 of those 6 occasions. As you rightly said just a minute ago, he filled his boots on Sunday with a decent century. A very, very good century it was too. He's so much better batting alongside Jason Roy, it's untrue. And he's got a good record on this ground. He scored 83 not out against New Zealand here in the early days of his ODI career when he was batting down the order, and then he scored 79 against Australia last summer. So nothing in the picture is going to haunt him. I mean, he plays so many games here when he does play for Yorkshire, doesn't he, against Durham? He'll have played T20 matches here, 50 over games here and everything else. So, he'll know all about this ground. I think he'll go past 37. Yeah, I think the New Zealand attack's made for him, really.
So Johnny Best over 36.5 runs there from UK. I've got another pick for the game. It's Ben Stokes' performance, 52.5 is his line. That's his line everywhere I've looked, actually. No one seems to be going lower or higher than that. The bloke's just in great form at the moment with the bat. I think he's had about 80 for the last 3 games. And this has been certainly building up for the whole tournament. His wicket taking's not been that great, but it's been good in patches. So maybe he's due another good game with the ball. Maybe he can nab a wicket somewhere here. And he's probably due some catches as well. He's only had 3 catches in this World Cup, Ben Stokes, which is quite a low number for him. He usually has a lot more than that. So I think he can contribute in a lot of ways. He's going to be highly motivated here. It's on his home ground. Now, whether that's a good or a bad thing, I don't know. We've seen players on their own ground struggle a bit at times, haven't we? But Stokes just seems in good form. My only real concern, actually, is if he doesn't get enough time to score runs with the bat, a la when England plays Afghanistan, and he has to come in and slog from the off. There is a danger that England top 4 will fill their boots, and a couple get a big score. So, especially if they're batting second, say chasing a lower total, that would be my worry here. But 53 runs isn't asking that. The way he's played at the moment, he looks like getting that if he's given enough chances. But with the opportunity for wickets, the odd catch, I think he can get over the line for me in this game.
Yeah, I mean, you've just outlined the sort of problems, haven't you? But I think the upside's a lot bigger than the downside on that one. Yeah. As long as he bowls enough, if England played 4 and out seamers, I'm not sure he'll get too many overs. But put it all together, I mean, he's got 3 scoring facets, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's really the batting that I'm basing this mostly on. But you've got a bet in the bowling market for England, top England bowler.
I have. Before we go on to that, though, I'll just cover Kane Williamson's performance, which is 46.5. And I was kind of in 2 minds with this one, Steve. There's 40.5 runs for him out there, or 46.5 was his performance. And I've gone with his performance because generally a class act, if he gets to 41, he'll go on and get an awful lot of runs, won't he? It's very rare that a class act gets out between 41 and 50. So I'm taking the extra chance that he goes up to 47, but he might not need to because he'll have catching opportunities when he's around the bat. And he started bowling himself a lot more in this tournament, and I expect New Zealand to drop a spinner and play an extra seamer here. So there should be overs on offer for Williamson. So I don't really know where this line comes from. I mean, obviously, he's been in magical form with a bat, hasn't he, in this tournament? So he could easily cover this with the bat. But he's got a decent record against England anyway. He averages 57.87 against England in ODI cricket. 6 of his 37 wickets in this format have come against England as well. He scores 750s and 2 tons in just 18 matches. So half the time he's batted against England, he's got 50 or more. Really, really, really don't know where this line comes from, because when you factor in that he could easily score with the with the ball and in the field, he might not even need 47 runs. But if he does, well, he's been filling his boots all tournament, hasn't he? So he's quite capable of getting them. I just do not see where that line's come from. More than happy to take the over on it.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't get out between 41 and 45, then 46, sorry, then it's happy days, isn't it?
If he does, then so be it. I've given myself the extra scoring options, really. Like I say, genuine class acts, generally when they're in, they fill their boots. Generally, they have to, they either get out before 20 or they go big, don't they? And he's definitely a genuine class act.
Yeah, and he might nab a wicket, down, someone trying to slog him out the park, and he got one against Pakistan, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he got one against Australia as well, didn't he? Was it Carey? Snared Carey, didn't he, with a bit of right arm filth.
You'd only need 27 runs then, wouldn't you? Which lowers it down completely. Get a catch out of it, and you might only need 20 runs from him. So
yeah, so
you have options, haven't you?
Exactly. I do think the performance is the better bet, considering you're only talking 6 runs. I mean, if you were talking 16 runs or something like that, then that's different. You'd have to counteract it, but you're only talking an extra 6 runs if he doesn't score any points in the field. So yeah, like you say, he's taken wickets in both games. So no reason really to take the runs over the performance.
So that final bet then, England top bowler, who are you going with?
Well, you mentioned about not necessarily liking players that play out on their home ground, and I know it's not, strictly speaking, Liam Plunkett's home ground anymore. Obviously, that's the Oval, isn't it? But it's been his home ground for much of his career. He used to play for Durham an awful lot, and I fancy he'll go well here, Liam Plunkett. England's bowling is an awful lot better when he's in the side, it has to be said. He picks up an awful lot of wickets in those overs between sort of 10 and 40, the middle overs as it's generally called in ODI cricket. Picked up 3 at the weekend against India, and if there's one thing we have seen in this pitch in the first 2 games, there's plenty of bounce in it. There's an awful lot of balls that have whizzed past shoulder height without really having an awful lot of effort put into it. Okay, the West Indies played in one of those games, and we should acknowledge that, but Plunkett's height will expose any bounce here, and New Zealand, they're not the best players of the hook shot, actually. From areas outside of Asia, you generally think all players are good at the hook shot, but that's not really New Zealand's game. New Zealand like to go on the front foot, push and prod and find the gaps and things like that. So actually, I think they could be a little spooked by Plunkett's bounce. As I say, he'll know this wicket because he's played on it for so long. And as long as the New Zealand openers don't crumble to Jofra Archer, and there is a danger of that because neither of them are in particularly good nick, but as long as they don't do that, I think Plunkett could be the one to do some damage in the middle over, particularly if they're facing that middle order who barely got a run between them in the tournament.
What price is he?
4-1. It's one of those bets, though. Do look out for who you're betting with. Take this one with someone that pays a dead heat because he is a seamer. He will go around the park. He's more than likely to get 3 for 60 than 3 for 30. So do get on somewhere where the dead heat pays, and that's William Hill, for example. If you've got an account there, they're 4-1. They're the top price. And if he does share with someone, and I'm particularly worried about Archer, who won't go for as many runs, you wouldn't think, you'll still get paid out at half your stake if he ties with someone else, regardless of who concedes more runs.
And what bookmaker are you going with for this?
Yeah, I'll go with William Hill.
Yeah, William Hill always good for that. Okay, so well, that concludes this podcast. We look forward to an exciting game, and we'll be back to preview Thursday's pulsating encounter at Headingley between West Indies and Afghanistan. So we'll look forward to that one, and see you for there, Kev.
Absolutely, Steve. All the best, mate.
Cheers.